Good stuff. Okay, thank you. And we'll do joys and concerns at the end and stop the recorder then. So, all right, so let's share the screen. And welcome to Stefan. Stefan, we're glad you're here. Thank you for helping us. Yeah. Okay, so today I thought I would, this is like part 2 of a sermon that I preached several weeks ago in July. And that sermon was on There is a River. There is a river that runs through us. And you know, I could have preached for another, 20 minutes then, or I could teach a class. So we were glad that this came up to be able to teach. So let's just go on to the next slide. I didn't do my little slide tape. Okay. So managing the floodwaters, a faithful response. And to me, it seems like that there have been a lot, it just feels like floods of stuff, right? Of difficulties, of pandemic, of, and this is actually a picture of cars downtown on May 16th. I don't know if you remember. And so not only did we have the flood of the pandemic and the flood of Snowmageddon, we have the flood that happened on May 16th. And it just feels like there's a lot of waves of stuff, right? And so just wanted to take the metaphor a little further and tell you about it. So to me, in that sermon, we talked about it's from Psalm 46. And that Psalm is, we often know that from God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in time of trouble. When the mountains shake and the seas roar and foam and the earth quakes, then God, there is no fear because God is our God. Well, right after that segment is this. There's a river whose streams make glad the city of God. God is in the midst of the city. It will not be moved. God will help when the morning dawns. And in my sermon, I had talked about how that verse came to life to me with Tina, a patient in Parkland, and when I was reading it to her, it's like, I read that first one. I didn't even read this verse 5. God is in the midst of the city; it shall not be moved. I mean, I had not gotten there. I was just stream of consciousness, and it was like, Tina, you are that city. God is in the midst of you. And then it says, God is in the midst of the city. It will not be moved. So to me, that was a huge gift for her in that moment, but it's a gift that stuck with me. So that was kind of the sermon on July 10th. If you haven't seen it, it's there. So I think I gotta get it. Yeah. Okay. So my pandemic practice that has helped keep me sane has been walking at Spring Creek Park. Spring Creek Park is at Renner and Plano. And in March, I walked most days, I'd say at least half the days of the pandemic, I've walked there two times, like in the morning and at night. Because that's where I ground. It's like God is here, I know it. And so I saw the spring growth, and it was hopeful in the middle of everything shutting down. And in the fall, I think it was the most beautiful colors that we had ever had. And I was able to walk there, and it just felt, it felt like God was very present. And even in Snowmageddon, I walked every day with my little hiking boots and just kind of slugged through it. And so that was something that was, it's been a hopeful practice. And Snowmageddon, so this overlooks the Spring Creek, and the Spring Creek is about maybe 16 feet down. It runs only this, very shallow most times, right? Well, on the weekend of May 16th, I was preaching a wedding in Austin. And so we were not in Dallas when all of that rain came. We were coming into Dallas, so we drove through a bunch of that. But we got here and it was 7 o'clock, 7:30, everything had passed. And I thought, I really need to go walk. And so I got my little hiking boots on because I knew it would be muddy. And this is not Spring Creek on that day. This is Duck Creek down in Richardson. And so, I mean, talk about floodwaters, right? Floodwaters coming through, and these houses, thank God, were safe. But these rivers, these creeks that run through here are meant to handle the flood of the whole city, right? It's like they've got this all engineered and they've got it designed so that everything is going to run through these. And so this was Duck Creek, and it drains a whole different part of the city than Spring Creek does. And when I say that Spring, so this was, yep, that was that flood, okay, and I was going to talk more about it, okay. So this is what I came up against. You can see that the benches are designed for the water to flow through it, right? And so all this flood just pouring through this park, okay? Even the trash cans are designed so they will stay in place. There's a little clip on, this is one of the designs. Another of them has it's a pole and it's a clip at the top and the bottom. So no matter what's going by, these trash cans aren't gonna, So this was my walk that day. And it was just so profound to me. The amount of water that must have come through this place, right? I mean, it's and as I walked, so this is the bridge. You can see that on the bridge, it was over the top of the bridge, right? Over the top of the bridge, and you can see where the water is right there, and that is probably 6 or 8 feet above what it normally is. Okay, so normally it's way, way, way down, just kind of trickling along, and so the water is just still rushing. I wish I had a kayak or something, because that would have been fun. And so I'm slugging through all this debris in my little hiking boots. You see the little tree that got stuck into the bridge by the floods, right? All coming through. Here's another picture of that from overhead. It's stuck in the bridge. So, and you think of the power of this water, right? The power. And so I continued to walk, and there was debris everywhere. Just tons of it, and you can sense the power. And at some places, at the lowest part of the park, you could look up into the trees, and there was bags, like grocery bags and stuff that were like 16 feet high. So 16 feet high compared to 16 feet. I mean, all that water, and I'm thinking, there's a city, there's a river that makes glad the city of God. God is in the midst of the city. And so here is the floodplain. Can you scoot these guys over to the side? That'll do it. Yeah. So the watershed, this is the watershed design around that area. And that the big crossroads you see there is the bush and 75, okay? And so Spring Creek Nature Area is where all this water is, right? Where the creek runs through this and then goes on, Spring Creek goes down here. And Sherrill Park Golf Course is part of that flood thing, right? Yeah. And so I mean, as an engineer, you need to study this thing. So this whole area, way up into Plano and Richardson, is drained by Spring Creek. Now, there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. God is in Mississippi. So we thank God for that river, right? And what started occurring to me is there something that this tells me about the church? So what if the church, the body of Christ, is supposed to be God, the river, and this is the city? What if we are supposed to, thank you, what if we are supposed to allow the pain of the city to flow through us, through the church? There's a lot of debris. I mean, what would that be like? What does that look like in a flood of pain around us, in the middle of a pandemic, in a city, in a time of turmoil? What do you think? Is it just Ellen, you're dreaming, and the church is not called to be that, or what? Is there something to it? This is y'all's time.
We need a grand filter.
We need a grand filter.
Grand filter.
Is that so? The city needs a grand filter, or we need a grand filter?
Both.
Yeah.
Like, hang on to the good and let the troubles, let the debris go by.
Okay, to hang on to the good and to let the debris go by. Yeah. Yeah. What else? Who else has any thoughts about it? Are we meant, is the church meant to be this, the receptacle for the pain? Dwayne is nodding his head. Mary, I see some heads nodding. What about you guys on Zoom? What do you think? I didn't say it was going to be like that. There are no right answers. Are y'all all eating breakfast on Zoom? So if we are meant to be, to allow the pain of the city around us to flow through us, there's, we need to be designed for it. So what would we need to do? What would it look like if we wanted to receive people from wherever they are, however they come, in the midst of turmoil in the world? What would we need to do to prepare for that? Hey. Yeah, thanks.
From Mark and Jan Walters.
Yeah.
They said maybe the church is there to help folks work through the debris.
Yeah, maybe we're here to help work through the debris. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But if so,
debris isn't always bad.
Okay.
And
yeah.
It's bringing stuff in to the city.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, we try to let the bad flow on through, but we're there to help those that need the help. Growing up on the Mississippi River as a kid, on the Tennessee side, before the Army Corps of Engineers tried to build the levees to control the river, farmers, it was a love-hate with the river because it would come and give new soil. It might take a year or two for the nutrients got to the soil and they could plant again. But and when they built the levee, then all of a sudden they were saying, hey, what happened? Now we have to fertilize and stuff. But
yeah.
It's
Could y'all hear that on Zoom? Somebody tell me.
Yes, we can hear it.
You could hear Ray?
Yes.
Good, thank you, good. So, yeah,
I mean, I see those trees in that picture there as
Mhm.
us, the church, being there to grab people as they come through. Not grab them, but to save them, not to save
Yeah.
them, but
yeah,
to help them.
yes. And, yeah, because people are in need of the, well, yeah, go ahead.
So we have a couple chats from Barbara. She said, like the wind bends the tree to make it stronger, if it does not bend, it snaps. We also have a chat from Mark and Jen Walters, they can't hear very well.
So Mark and Janet, you can't hear, what can you not hear? Like when I'm talking or the rest of them? Like the discussion in the room?
Discussion in the room.
Okay, so really, especially with a mask on, you know, maybe when you're talking, just take it off and speak, yeah. Because the camera zooms in on you and they can also see your mouth move, so they can read this. So what Ray was saying is that, yeah, maybe what we're supposed to do is, and it's same with Blaine, is to receive the good. There's some debris that comes with it and may get stuck here. But his example was the Mississippi River, and because where he lived in Tennessee, before they built the levees, the farmers on the banks had a love-hate relationship with the river because it would get outside its banks, quote unquote, you know, and because there was a flood upstream where there was more water upstream, right? And so it gets wider, but it also drops new nutrients into the soil. And then when they built the levee, that curtailed that, and then there you didn't have that gift. So you have the floods, but you also have the gift. Yeah, that's interesting. I like it. So
Yeah, this is-
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, this is John. I was just going to kind of tag on to that, you know, what Ray and Barbara were saying. I mean, it's just like us to think that we know how it should be, that even this whole, like you showed the watershed, right? That even we try to engineer the watershed, right? Because we want it to be a certain way. And we think that the debris is bad or good, or you know, and maybe it's okay. It's what it's supposed to be, and it's just part of the journey. I mean, I'm kind of speaking to myself, right? We just kind of want it to be what we think.
Yeah, yeah. Now I do say that if we didn't engineer that watershed, once we built all these streets and the natural stuff, it would really be bad.
Yeah.
And insurance companies would, you know, go under.
But maybe we should have built it a different way to begin with.
Well, that's true. That's true.
So
yeah.
I've got a comment.
Yes, Harry.
You know, I think sometimes of the songs that we sing in church, that sometimes we sing songs that in the context of what we're saying right now, it's like, you know, the flood has passed. I am standing on the hill. I rejoice that I missed the flood. And then I think, you know, the song Oceans last week, which is actually quite in context, that I'm over my head. I don't know. It's like all I have is faith. I'm out on a limb here. I'm afraid that the water is I'm still in the flood. And so, you know, I think the people that we want to be open to in church are, you know, up to their ears in flood. And it's, you know, kind of, are we, you know, I probably would feel kind of hurt being in a bunch of people say, I'm above the flood, you know, I've made it, I've arrived, I'm successful. And so, you know, I think it's, you know, we're all in the flood. We're all, you know, reaching out, trying to grab for a branch to keep from getting washed away. And I think, I think, in order to be accepting to each other and to other people that we're trying to, welcome into our fellowship, that, the more that we think about, hey, we're all in the flood. We're all, we're all in danger of being washed away. And, we're seeking faith and hope in that context. So, yeah, I think it's a good analogy.
I love that, Harry. And if I can speak a bit further, there are times when the flood affects, it's like on May 6th, it affects the whole area. This pandemic, it affects the whole world. The whole world is in a flood, right? And we're asked, we, the church, is asked to be the receivers of people and their pain. Or maybe we are, we believe we are, sounds like we might believe that. And so that is really hard, because I'm struggling too. Like, I'm trying to tread water and you need help. And so there's, and sometimes we find a big branch, or we find a little place to land. But really, what I also hear you saying, Harry, is that, sometimes we're right in it, but sometimes we've been in a storm like that. And so this storm doesn't feel as threatening, because we know that God has us in storm, and so it's the idea of the wounded healer, that we've been through the pain, and so we can be with you in your pain. And yeah, Dwayne.
Yes, I think if we're in the flood and we've gotten to the top of the mountain, and we can smile and take a deep breath, and then realize there's still a lot of people suffering. And as Christians, we've got to step back in, get our feet muddy, and get wet, and sacrifice a little bit. And maybe bring them to the top. That's kind of the spirit moving us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and so I think that's a little bit of what I kind of was thinking about with this. How do we need to be designed to receive? So when I was at Parkland, I felt like people's pain was just pouring through me as a chaplain, and that I was a sieve, that I was a little bit like this bitch, and that what I really had to pay attention to was when something stuck on the sieve, and this is what I teach the deacons, when something's stuck there, it's your pain intersecting their pain, and you've really got to stop and take a look at what's going on in you, and do some healing around that, because that makes you less able to care for someone else when you're in the middle of a trauma yourself, when it's really intersected the trauma with you. So, I mean, to me, as I was just, all of this was just kind of conjecture on this verse, and on the river, and the river staying in its banks, or the rain coming, and and then being designed. All of it kind of is just, thanks for playing with me. Okay, so let's see. I need to hit the thing.
So I also can say that I appreciate that we have church leaders that are not trying to come across as, I've got this all figured out and I'm here to tell you how to straighten your life out. I've always, I think I probably saw it a lot from youth leaders tended to, stand up in front of a bunch of people and say, hey, I'm broken too. I don't have this figured out. And, I think, Andy has gotten up and said, I've had a problem with alcohol. I'm recovering. I'm not a perfect human being. I think all of you have been vulnerable about your struggles, and I deeply appreciate that, because it's more like we're in this together rather than, hey, I've got this all figured out, and I look good and smell good, and you know, I want you to look good and smell good too, and put on good airs. And I just appreciate this church that that we're all in it together. And that's, I would not want to be in a church where it was, you know, the church leaders felt like they had to put on airs and pretend like they never had any problems.
Thank you, Harry. That means so much. I mean, because it's, yeah, ooh, can hardly think of the next word. So yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Ellen, it's Larry. To carry on what Harry just said, D.T. Niles years ago wrote a book on evangelism. It became a classic back in the 50s and 60s. And the key phrase out of that text, which Harry just enunciated in a modern way, is what is evangelism? It is one beggar telling another beggar where to find food. And that's kind of the way what Harry just said, isn't it?
Yeah, amen. Absolutely. And I think it's a lot more convenient when the river is just in the banks. You know, I think it's a lot more convenient when the church has it all together and we're all on the hilltop, you know, and it's like, whoo, that's a lot safer. That's not as messy, you know, and but I don't think that that's very faithful. I mean, it's not unfaithful, but there's another step, you know, and
It is a way of doing church, but I think we don't feel like we're called to do that way.
yeah, yes. Very good, thanks. Okay, so yeah, there can be some pretty heavy duty debris. And the landscape might even change. So this is a part of my walk. And I have to tell you that when I got to this part, it's down by the cross under Plano. It's a little bridge that goes under Plano Road. And there was a seat right here, and these two like mega tattooed guys were sitting there in all this debris, and I'm walking by, you know, this old lady, and they said, "Wow, this is cool, isn't it?" And I said, "Yes, it is." So this area right here, so Karen Condon and I would always walk this. There's a trail right here, and it goes right through that, okay? And the deal is that this is actually taken in June.
Wow.
Now, it's down a little lower than that, but so it's just water table, you know, there is no way to drain this out. The water table just has to get so low that it's gonna go. And so it could change the landscape here in the church if we are meant to receive the pain of the. So what could that look like, or what are your thoughts about that?
Moving us forward,
Moving us forward?
that because the landscape period is changing
Yeah, the
around
landscape.
it, the global,
Yeah, the landscape is changing, and
Not
so,
just
yeah, oh, interesting,
that.
yeah. Mhm.
it's moving us forward. Think about it. The pandemic has moved us forward in the church to what we're doing today. This would not have been on the agenda.
No,
Ever.
it gives
You
some
know.
of us a headache, doesn't it?
Right. So as the landscape is changing, it challenges us to move with it.
Wow.
And that was my thoughts. We just do not like change.
No.
Mhm.
We have to condition ourselves. It's like a cushion. You gotta get on the cushion and soften yourself and accept.
And accept the change, yeah.
I mean, humanity, point blank, none of us like change.
Yeah,
Even when I used to be young, saying, oh, I can deal with change.
yeah. You really
The
didn't
truth
like,
was,
you had to
no.
like steel yourself for it, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
it was a whole level of stress that I allowed myself to go through.
Yeah.
That we're gonna prosper from moving with this change,
Yeah,
I feel.
well, and that the God's word, God's kingdom will prosper, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good, thank y'all. Anything else around that?
I know people always, cite verses about God being unchanging, but I've figured out through the years that, my understanding of God changes and my understanding of myself changes, and it should,
Mm-hmm.
and of the people and of the community around me and of my role in the community around me. It should change.
Yeah, yeah. Even if God doesn't change, we don't know how that looks, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Amen. Yep.
So a few weeks ago, it was actually when I was thinking about this, how I would do this Sunday school. I got a call from a lady. I now have my phone forwarded to my cell phone from church because I'm tired of, because I found that people don't know when to call the cell phone. It's like, because there's a message that says, so if this is urgent, so now it just comes to my phone. But so this lady called and she was very distraught, and her name is Sandra, and she was, her dog had been picked up by the pound and they were going to neuter it. And it was not okay for her. She was very distressed that her dog was going under the knife. Now, we can all sit here and say, well, dogs need to not be, it's like that's the best thing to do that. But the deal is, for this woman, it was not okay that her dog was going under the knife. And so did we have $100 to get the dog out of the pound? And it was like the fine. I think that they may have let her have the dog for free out of the pound if they had neutered it. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I think I just need to go see what's going on. And so I met the lady at the Plano pound, and because I had a sense that she was being real with me and that there was something going on here. Anyway, and so I just thought, well, I just need to see what's going on. So I meet her and she says, she's tall, very thin, hasn't shaved her legs, like I don't know if ever, I don't know. And I invited her to church. Okay. And she was the sweetest thing. And I said, so tell me about you. And she said, well, I'm a little slow. She says, I have a brain tumor. I hope it's still benign. And I said, well, she said, and then a year ago, I was beat up and have had trauma. And I said, so are you familiar with Parkland, like care that they can, are you under care for your brain tumor and stuff? And she said, yeah, but they wanted to operate on me. And I'm not gonna do that. And so right now, I know what? This dog is an extension of her, right? And excuse me. And so she's telling me, she says, Jesus can just take me right now. I'm good with that. But I'm not going under the knife. Did someone say something? And so I, I said, well, let's go pay the $100, so we get the dog out. And she said, I don't know if this is okay, but, so I have a job that I'm starting in a week at a warehouse, and they pay weekly. And, and I'm used to going to the Plano, day labor place. And so I get paid by the day, so I can continue to stay in the, Red Roof Inn or whatever. And so I said, well, tell me about your job. So she says, she's gonna be working in a warehouse and mostly folding shirts or something, I don't know what. And so, I said, well, why don't we go over there and we can do like 4 days or whatever. And so she said, okay, well, you want to follow? No, you don't want to follow me. I'll follow you. And I said, no, I'll follow you. And I mean, her car, y'all, oh my gosh. So it's one of the ones that has little eyes, that the little lights that go, and one's up and one's down. And she had lived in it. She gets it. She's got these 2 dogs. I'm carrying the dog because she also has a teddy bear with her that she carried. And so like and she's getting in there, and there's a rope to close the door. And, I mean, this precious woman. And so I paid, and I've been, and so the guy at the Red Roof Inn, they are almost all like Indian that own these places, that run these places. And they know the kind of people coming, but this man was so kind to this woman, which tells me she's not all that they normally deal with. And so he, she paid it, she's getting her stuff, and it's just a mess. And, she had gotten her, I guess, license or whatever to be able to, or a picture identification to be able to work at this place, all this stuff. So she's showing them that and all this stuff. So we pay for it, and then we go outside, and I gave her my card, and I said, I would love it if you came to church. She says, how can someone come pick me up? I said, well, you have to call. She says, well, I try to save that for the emergency. Well, we don't really have a van. She said, do y'all have a van or anything? I said, really don't have a van. And she says, well, I'll try to make it. And and then she was just the sweetest. And she said, can I hug you? And I just melted. I mean, she was just precious. And so there could be some, like, it can change landscape, and there could be debris and teddy bears and dogs that are not neutered, and I just feel like that is what the river is about. There's a river that runs through.
Wish I could. Yeah.
Darren, you talking to us? Darren, you talking to us? No, he's not. Okay.
Yeah, Alan, you're coming in and out. This is Theron. If you get closer to the microphone, your voice does carry, but it's coming in and out, missing the points. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else having trouble hearing? Is it not working?
I don't know if it's coming from here as loud as it was before.
Okay, we'll do that. All right. Sorry about that. I do know that Theron has some internet trouble, so I didn't know if it was everybody.
You want?
Okay. Okay, so there's this a little more. Okay. All right. So this is a fence. Now that fence was designed to keep people out of the office building right there, but the waters are supposed to flow through it. And if you look, there's debris. the way the waters flowed, there was a twist. There's debris coming down this way. The stream comes here and takes a turn. And so the debris came this way, but then it came this way. And so this fence just got cratered. So I wonder what fences that we have might be designed for floods, but that needs to be taken down. Do we have any?
The one that I think of that I have related to a fence is, you know, I'm retired now and I've lived a pretty good life and all that I've had. And when I see an obstacle or what I think is an obstacle, or why is this person here? I don't need to deal with that. They should deal with it themselves. You know, I'm in my lifetime where I just want to do the things I never got to do when I was younger. But then somebody kind of keeps reminding me that, well, think about when you were younger and you had these obstacles. Did you do it by yourself? And then I realized, no, people were there helping me along the way. So now I need to keep remembering it's not me doing stuff. It's, you know, other people are helping me all the time. So I need to, instead of just lay back and, you know, saying, all right, I can rest on my laurels, if you will.
Wow.
It's, you know, it's all the people that came before me, helping me, whether it was my parents or childhood friends or what. So,
Wow.
or this
Yeah,
church.
that's pretty profound, right? Yeah. We might have to get off our butts.
I like how you said that does the fence need to be taken down? And a lot of people will say, wow, the fence just needs to be fixed. And should be.
Yeah,
taken
it
down.
was-
I don't know, maybe it
Yes,
just needs to
and
be
that's a
fixed.
discernment, isn't it? Yeah.
Mhm.
And they did put it back up. I was wondering what they do, because it had to be very expensive, you know, and I don't know, they didn't want the riffraff from the park, like me. Like, messing with their building, you know, but yeah, it's, what do you do with it? It's, the things come through the church, you know, and show us that maybe there's a fence that's there that we thought was designed right, you know, and we thought that it was needed, but it's not allowing what needs to happen. And it's injured. So do we take this fence down or do we put it back up? Yeah.
Mr. Darren, may I suggest?
Huh?
May I suggest? The fences are a symbol of the filters in our mind. And growing up, we all have lived through all these different filters. And I think it's incumbent on the church to present the nuances of today and what's happening today, because it's very difficult for us older people, Ray, to understand with the filters we have, to accept what's going on. However, we need to stay in tune, active, to make our contributions. How's that?
Wow. Yeah,
Good.
well said. Yeah, thank you.
Very careful on that.
Anyone else? That just coffee? I don't think you heard that. Okay. So
That's a good thing.
there's a river in us. Is God. God is in the midst of us.
See?
Are that river to the world, whose streams make glad the city of God by funneling them through the church, through God's presence when they're in great need of it. May our streams make glad the city of God. Oh. Amen. That's all I got, folks. And I gotta run, and y'all got, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Good discussion. Thank you much. And thank you, Stephanie.
Okay, everyone, we'll, stop the recording, please.
But you do, why don't you put this on? Just put it on the graph here. Well,